So what we're going to add in then is more code here. Above the goal seek line, we're going to add in on error resume next. So that's kind of a superpower for our macro where we tell Excel that from this point forward in this macro, if any line of code has a problem, skip over it. Then we'll leave our goal seek line as it is. Then we're going to add in another decision-making capability. We're going to say if error not equal to 0, then we'll put in a message box. And so the message box is going to be a prompt that shows up that's going to give the user some feedback. So we'll just type all this out and we'll go through and deconstruct it so that we can see how all this works together. So here what we're going to do is we're going to add on error resume next. So rather than stopping with a debug error, on error resume next says, hey, just skip over it. Now in this case, we want to know if the user skipped over it. So that's why we're going to add more to this. We're going to say if error not equal to 0. So anytime we see an if, that's a decision-making capability. Message box is a cousin of the input box, where it's just going to display some information. So result is not a valid input. We'll choose VB critical here, then we'll choose invalid input. The other thing that we need to make sure that we include is if is on error So that's on error go to 0. And I'll put a 0 in quotes at the end. So that is a 0, not the letter O. So some aspects of writing programming code just feel like professional hazing because, like, does it really have to be this cryptic, such as that on error go to 0? But as you work with it, you are truly learning a new language so that the computer can understand what you're talking about. And so on error go to 0 tells Excel to start stopping at errors again. And anytime you're using on error resume next, as closely as possible in your programming code, you also then want to put in an on error go to 0, because if you don't put the on error go to 0, you could have other errors that you didn't realize were in your code. They get skipped over, and then you're stuck trying to figure out, why is my macro not doing what I want it to do? So let's test this here, and then we'll break it down to understand what we've just typed out here. So we're going to run our macro, type in my name, I'll click OK. This time, instead of throwing me into the programming code, it says David is not a valid input, and so then I click OK. So in that case, if I'm not going to play by the rules, I'm going to type in a word, then it's just going to gracefully end. I have to go back in here, type in an amount, and then I get to see what get to solve for my equation.